Welcome to your first full moon of 2023. It is in Cancer and peaking at 3:07 p.m. Pacific Standard Time on January 6, 2023. So this Cancer full moon is illuminating our subconscious minefields. It's the areas that we are constantly stepping in and slipping up and stumbling over, where our own triggers and traumas and tendencies interfere with our success. This time of year is famous for people swearing new oaths of allegiance for personal growth, but it's estimated that actually only 9 to 12% of people follow through with their New Year's resolutions. And I think this is because we're generally oblivious to our own subconscious motivations and drives, which dooms us before we even begin if we don't know where we're going to slip up, have our own cravings and desires and behavior tendencies to kind of self-destruct us in our efforts. Take for example, someone who resolves to lose weight by changing their diet and exercising more. Well, that's true. That is the way to lose weight, right? But if it was so easy to achieve that goal, we'd all be living our best lives at our ideal weight, right? And so many of us aren't. And this is because our inner cravings, our unconscious desires, and our tendency to do what we've always done and repeat our past behaviors is so strong that we really don't give it that much credit. So it's just not as easy and simple as being like, yeah, sure, I'm going there and this is how I'm going to get there and I'll just stop snacking. No problem. I'll just grit myself and will myself through this. We really underestimate the strength of our own subconscious determination and drives. And if you think about it, that is really what the Cancer themes are. Cancer represents our roots, where we're coming from, how we grew up, our childhood. So they say the first cuts are the deepest. So the triggers and traumas that we have from our childhood really cut us the deepest, even if they didn't seem to be that big of a deal. You know, when we think of traumas, we think of horrible things happening in our lives right now. But a trauma can just be by being told no for the first time, or just a gentle slap across the bottom, or, being stood in the corner, or, it's just the first time that we were not allowed to do something. Or it could be much worse. Lots of people have really traumatic childhoods, and yeah. So the point is that the Cancer is about the subconscious mind. And I think that this would be a good time to talk about the moon card, because actually the interesting thing is that Cancer rules the moon in astrology. So the moon card in tarot, this is it. So we see here, there's a lobster kind of coming out of this pool of water. And the water represents the subconscious mind. The ocean generally, universally represents the subconscious. And if you think about what a lobster is the creature that dwells at the bottom of the ocean and literally feeds off the shit the creatures above it kind of trickles down to it. So it's represents the deepest, darkest parts of ourselves that have fed on fear and shame and guilt, etc. And look, it's coming up to be seen and poke above the surface. So this is that time where, this full moon time, where we're being able to see where we're unhealed, or not necessarily unhealed, but where we need to know ourselves better. We need to accept and acknowledge and integrate these parts of ourselves. We can't just pretend snacking isn't a problem for us, or that no, we're going to try and be morning people if that's not part of our inner nature. It's just working against yourself. Learning who you are and where you will stumble will help you align your will with your inner nature. Anyways, so the other part of this moon card is these two pillars, these two towers here, and that harkens or insinuates the High Priestess, which is also another moon card. And the High Priestess is about turning inwards, its inner vision and self-awareness. Let me see, do I have her? Yeah, she's right here. So she's about your inner wisdom and your subconscious mind, that part of you. So taking a lesson from the high priestess, being above the fray, like being above instead of inside your own turmoil, so you can see it objectively, seeing things with an acute, kind of clear, non-judgmental way. Clearly, like, oh, I was triggered by that, or that I can't seem to make myself get up and immediately go to the gym in the morning. I go better. It's better for me if I go in the afternoon. Or, I said I wasn't going to watch TV, but I'm just so tired at the end of the day. Like I don't know what else to do, and I just want to veg out, and etc. We have to know ourselves so we can make plans for how to work with our stumbling blocks. Be like, have a plan for, instead of watching TV at night, you have this book, it's already sitting out for you. And if you don't feel like doing that, here's another option, but just knowing yourself helps you create strategies to improve your success. So interestingly enough, Cancer is the Chariot rather, is the archetype of Cancer in the Major Arcana card, and the Chariot is the card of the year. So as a tarot reader, when I see the Chariot card, I usually think of success, victory, driving your own fate, driving your own destiny, taking the reins, taking charge of your life. And to me, that seems so much more of like a Capricorn or an Aries card. And so I really had to consider it a bit more. And this is what I came up with. So if you see here, this covering, there's a covering over the driver, the person that's driving, conducting this vehicle here. So that represents the shell, the crab shell of Cancer, and the person is within the shell is who's in charge here. So this really represents like, oh, our inner drives are what's in charge and driving things here, and it's our unconscious that's actually in charge. And that's what that's really trying to show. And there's the 4 pillars in the cards, which represent stability. So if you really want to be in charge of yourself, you have to find stability within your inner self to be able to go in the direction that you'd like to head in. The other aspect of the card is thinking about the wheels and the axle, and that represents the masculine and feminine parts of ourselves. The masculine parts of ourselves are the outward parts, the things that are taking charge. It's the structures that we create, and the wheel represents the feminine parts, and that's the subconscious parts of ourselves. And they need to work together. They need to be in cooperation, in cahoots, if you will, in order for us to be aligned within our inner nature and our willpower so that we can move forward. Because if they're not in alignment, then it's like trying to drive with your emergency brake on. Anyway, so this is the card of the year, and it's really about aligning your inner nature, getting to know yourself. That is what this full moon is about. Full moons are for illuminating. So Cancer new moon, the new moons are about setting intentions, and this Capricorn new moon happened 2 weeks ago at the winter solstice, which is an amazing time to be generally laying down goals. It's kind of like the astrological new year. So the fact that the new moon was at that same time is like an extra potent time, but you may have been finding yourself stumbling or having a difficult time achieving your goals because maybe you didn't plan properly. And what's been coming to light is like, oh, this is a behavior, this is a tendency, this is something that needs to be healed. This is a way that I self-sabotage and get in my own way of achieving my goals. For me, something that has come up is sleep time. I am a terrible sleeper, and I try really hard to go to sleep at night early enough so that I can wake up early and work towards being a morning person. But for some reason, I'm tired all day, and like 11 o'clock rolls around and I'm like, Zoom, okay. So the 2 things that I have been considering are either I need to be better about my screen time and like actively working towards better sleep hygiene, like no screens after 9, to taking no drinks, no tea, no water after 9, like really working towards being able to going to sleep earlier. Or I just need to embrace it and just be a night person and get all my stuff done at night. There's 2 routes here, but either way, it's like knowing that this is a way that I'm sabotaging myself in my efforts to accomplish. And that way I can align myself, right? Okay. So I guess one of the other things I wanted to look at was the Sabian symbols for 16 degrees of Cancer. And I think it would be amazing if you would all look at your charts to see where is 16 degrees of Cancer. See if there's anything else in your chart, any other planets that are, let's see, like I would say 14 to 18 degrees, because if there's anything at those degrees, no matter what sign they're in, they are aspecting this full moon, and so they're being activated in your charts. But no matter what, taking a look, where is Cancer in your chart? Where is 16 degrees in your chart? Because that is the area of your life that is being activated, that's being illuminated. For me, it's in the 2nd house of values and personal and material things. So it has more to do with what I'm valuing in my life, the way that I'm making money, and et cetera, et cetera. So if it's for you in the 10th house, it's the way it's around your career and reputation and what you're doing in the outer world, etc. And you can always hit me up for a reading if you would like to talk about what energies are being activated within your own charts, or to do a tarot reading around what needs to be released, what needs to be embraced, what needs to be addressed, or what the opportunities and challenges are of this cycle, if you just want some more clarity around what's coming up for you this full moon. Anyways, back to the Sabian symbols. The Sabian symbol is at 16 degrees of Cancer, and Dane Rudhyar, there's 2 people who write about the Sabian symbols. Dane Rudhyar in the Astrological Mandala, and originally it was Dr. Mark Edwards. So Dane Rudhyar describes the Sabian symbol as after a person decides to follow a certain course of action, aka set goals, accepting a new allegiance, the results of this decision at the 3 basic levels of the human experience, actional, emotional, cultural, and individual mental, need to be stabilized. Meaning you need to use all 3 parts of yourself, mind, body, spirit, to work in consort with each other to achieve that goals. You have to align your primal needs and desires with your intellectual will to satisfy your intentions. Dr. Mark Edmonds says of the Sabian symbol that life as a never-ending adjustment of practical realities to their ideal potential. Meaning we have to be vigilant in observing when and why we get off track, which is what this full moon's about, How are we getting off track? What's that shiny thing over there? Oh, we'll just have pizza tonight and then start tomorrow. Or, I'll just go out and have 1 drink with my friends. It'll only be like an hour. It'll be fine. Sure enough, 3 hours later, you have to know yourself. If you can't say no, then don't talk yourself into doing it, or whatever it is for you. So the key word here is profundity, and it's defined as deep insight or great depth of knowledge or thought, which brings us back to the full moon. What has been getting in the way of our achieving our goals? Where are you getting in your own way? What has been shown to you in the last few days? And I know that some of you have been emotional wrecks. And that means that there is a part of you that is just really screaming to be seen. So whenever you find yourself being triggered, that is like part of you protecting yourself. So trying to get clear on what is trying to be protected. What are the ways that we try and protect ourselves? Or, understanding that in the past it has shielded you from something. This reaction has shielded you, has protected you. And so understanding the function of this trigger, or the way that you respond, and being able to work with it or heal it or replace it with something else that helps you still stay protected. I mean, these are all ways that we've learned to cope with our lives, ways that we've learned to understand things. Okay, let's see here. Okay, actually, I wanted to also talk about the triad of the astrological zodiac signs. So there's 3, if you break it up, 4 signs, 4 signs, and 4 signs, there's a triad here. So the first triad, Aries through Cancer, represents the id, the unconscious desires, our primal instincts. Like, I want that. If I can't have that, I'm gonna, freak out. It's about instant gratification. It's about satisfying our needs immediately. Like, what do you mean I can't have that cookie? Like, I want it now, In a way, our society really operates out of that, like with the advent of AI. We have chatbots to write all of our things for us. We have Amazon to deliver things in one day to us. But anyways, I digress. So the second triad, Leo through Scorpio, is about the development of the ego, learning to tame your inner id, your desires, so that you can make long-term goals. Because if you're always focused on satisfying your needs now and throwing tantrums, you actually won't get anywhere. You have to be a little more calculated, a little more patient. And that's interesting because the Leo card is strength, and strength is about taming those inner primal instincts so that you can move forward. Anyways, the third and final phase is Sagittarius through Pisces, and that is the super conscious ego, and that has to do with what you're dealing with other people and what's out there in the world. So Cancer is the final phase of the id phase, and it's where in the themes of Cancer relate to our roots, childhood, home, inner security. So understanding where you're coming from and how your roots grew and affect you now is so important to understand here, so you can effectively plan ahead and move into that second phase of ego development and, patience. If you know the gas meter in your car is broken, you will use the odometer to track your miles and refill the tank more often until you fix it, or you won't. And that is what we call self-sabotaging. So knowing where I don't want to say where we're broken, but where we're tender, so that we can adjust our lives for success and not be breaking down all the time. Does that make sense? I often feel like a broken record with the daily tarot readings and astrological insights. It feels like every day the cards are asking us to let go of things getting in the way of our reaching our potential. Like, just commit wholeheartedly to doing only the things that support us in reaching our potential and living our happiest lives. It's so easy. It's such an easy equation. Just do it. Like, oh, is that going to help your goal? Like, oh no, it isn't. Well, just don't do it. Life's just not that simple. Life's just not that simple. And that's why we're constantly needing to readjust, as Dr. Mark Edmonds said, like constantly seeing like, oh, that shiny thing over there led us off our path, or oh, that craving was stronger than my desire to lose weight, or whatever, or my desire to satisfy my desires now is stronger than my long-term plans, So this is the time to really be understanding how we can work with ourselves, like understanding, like, maybe recognizing when you do see a shiny thing to be like, oh, this is happening. I'm seeing a shiny thing right now. Better bring it back. Or, it's just having self-awareness. Seeing where you stumble the most, seeing where you're triggered the most, seeing where you slip up the most, and planning for it. Constantly being reminded to get back on path. That's what we need as humans. We need to constantly step back, observe, recenter. We need to be told that every day is a new day. We can always start fresh and be better armed for success. So this full moon, take the time to reflect on the things beneath our consciousness that cause our cravings, provoke us to anger, drive us to numb ourselves. Basically, do anything except the things that will help us move forward. So try wrapping your head around why, like what needs does this thing satisfy? Like what needs do our triggers, our cravings? Like what do they satisfy? How have they helped protect us in the past, and how can we integrate or replace them and thus stabilize ourselves? Once you're able to truly align your nature with your conscious will, you'll be an unstoppable force. Anyway, I really hope this is helpful. I just love talking to you about tarot and astrology. Again, if you would like to take a look at your own chart and see what is being activated, or do a reading, or both, understanding what is trying to come through and emerge and be released and what needs to be addressed for this full moon, please hit me up and let me know. I would love to do a reading for you. I hope that you have a wonderful day and happy full moon.